Welcome to another Kundalini After Dark session. Tonight we're talking all about Kundalini hidden in plain sight in pop culture. I'm your host, Brent Spirit, and I'm here on Zoom with 15 others. We've got a few tuning in on YouTube. It's going to be a fun conversation. We'll see where it goes. If you're listening to the recording in the archive, you can join us for the next Kundalini After Dark meeting. You can visit brentspirit.com/afterdark to register. The link is in the description along with links to a bunch of other things. I've got a free Kundalini Fundamentals course and much more. Check it all out in the description. If you're tuning in on Spotify and you haven't already, if you could leave a rating, I'd really appreciate that. It goes a long way. Helps me to get the message out about Kundalini awakening. Thank you all so much for your support, and a special thank you to all those that have offered a donation. It allows me to do this, and I really, really appreciate it. So let's dive in here to talk a little bit about Kundalini in pop culture. So I was inspired to bring up this topic because earlier this week I read an article, I believe it was in Revolver magazine, about the inspiration behind one of the most iconic symbols in our pop culture, which is the Rolling Stones logo, the hot lips. And so this article revealed that the Rolling Stones logo was actually inspired by Kali. Kali, of course, being the Hindu goddess of time, of destruction. She is one of the manifestations of the Divine Mother, the Divine Feminine. Shakti, of course, synonymous with Kundalini, right? So when your Kundalini process is a little fierce, intense, raw, challenging, you can relate with Kali and her ways of purifying you. So here in this image, we have Kali with her tongue sticking out, right? She's holding the head of a demon, I believe, that she just beheaded, right? And so I read in this article, I believe Mick Jagger saw the tongue sticking out and felt, that was, like a sort of rebellious. And of course, it manifested in this logo that we see all the time. It's one of those logos that I think people even wear without even knowing the band, right? The logo, the sign may even transcend the band in some sense. So I thought that was really, really fascinating to see once again Kundalini, a representation of the Divine Mother, Shakti, manifesting in plain sight, right? So of course, we come together to relate and to normalize this process. And sometimes we can feel as if we're all alone, as if what we're going through is so mysterious and so rare and so obscure. And in some respects, of course, it is. This is how I speak about this process at times. But on the other hand, it's all over the place. I mean, it's really like the only game we're playing here, which is this process, Kundalini awakening, spiritual transformation, however you would like to think about it. So this is not the only, you know, representation or symbolic manifestation of Kundalini Shakti within rock and roll. The other one I have to show here is from Tool's music video for their song Parabola. So in this music video, towards the end, there is an absolutely mind-blowing animation created by the visionary artist Alex Gray. Perhaps you're familiar with his work as a painter. But in this instance, he put together this animation depicting a Kundalini awakening. And it's really, really incredible. It's possibly the most detailed animation of this Kundalini awakening journey out there. It's really, really incredible. And you'll note that in this depiction, the Kundalini actually begins as a flame. What's interesting is it actually begins at the toes, So some, of course, actually experience their Kundalini rising beginning at the feet, at the toes, the big toe, usually on the left foot, it seems. Some describe that. Of course, others will describe it beginning at the root. Others will describe a descent of energy from the crown downwards, or the heart kind of explodes with energy. So it happens in all different directions, begins on all different places. But I just found it very interesting that in this particular depiction, Alex Gray chose to depict it as beginning at the feet. And so I heard that this is one reason why sometimes we may, revere great mystic or guru or, an avatar's feet. So we may touch the feet of a great master as a means to receive a blessing and whatnot, or to show our humility and our surrender. So I heard that this is one of the reasons, because Kundalini begins at the feet in some respects. So Tool's music video, Parabola, you can check it out. Really incredible song as well. Not exactly easy listening, but really beautiful, meaningful lyrics. Very, very spiritual. That entire album, Lateralis, it's my favorite album of all time. I must have heard it 1,000 times over the years. And so the other day, I was thinking back about some of the earliest signs of a Kundalini process, or just Kundalini theme entering my life, you could say. And I remember being about 8 or 9 years old, and I would watch, just the streaming music videos on like MTV or Much Music. Here in Canada, there's a channel called Much Music. And so they would play all different music and all of the latest music videos. And one of them was Tool's music video. And I remember being a young kid and watching this really, really bizarre music video. Prior to, of course, the Kundalini depiction, there's like really, really unusual sort of stop motion animations and whatnot. And I remember watching as a kid and just being completely entranced and just really enthralled with this. And I guess this was probably the first time when I, observed this Kundalini theme. Of course, I had no idea what this was. I just thought like this is really strange music and a strange music video. But that was one of the first times I think it showed up in my life as a young kid. And so I invite you to also consider all of the times where Kundalini and this theme, spiritual awakening, may have emerged in your life during your childhood. It can help you to make more sense of your journey and to show you that, this is likely destined for a very, very long time. And nothing is actually happening spontaneously out of nowhere. The signs were there for, much, much earlier than we may think. So this is Tool's music video called Parabola. Parabola. The entire album is pretty incredible. And it hasn't, I don't think he's ever mentioned it, but I have a suspicion that Tool's singer, Maynard James Keenan, he's a singer of a handful of different bands, A Perfect Circle, Pussifer, as well as Tool. I suspect he may have had a Kundalini awakening. Just my hunch. He's got a tattoo up his spine, very spiritual lyrics that he writes, very creative, quite a genius guy. Just my hunch. But nonetheless, really, really incredible band, Tool. And maybe some Tool fans, we can get a little annoying. Tool is kind of like it's like a cult. So if you don't like Tool, but you know them, sometimes people get annoyed with Tool fans. So another depiction of Kundalini in popular culture, hidden in plain sight, is the dollar sign. The dollar sign. So the serpent up the rod, right? That serpent energy moving up the spinal column, the Sushumna Nadi, shows up once again in the most common symbol, you may say, the dollar sign, right? The dollar sign, representing, of course, money. But what is money really? It's energy, right? It's an exchange of energy. It represents our energy, right? Our labor, right? Or someone's labor. Maybe we found the money, but someone's labor, right? That's what it represents. Hidden in plain sight, right? The dollar sign. Another way that the Kundalini has shown up in popular culture, not only representing wealth, but also representing health. So the World Health Organization, they've chosen to use the serpent up the rod as their symbol, right? This is Kundalini, plain sight, right? Of course, this is the rod of Asclepius, representing healing and whatnot from, I believe, ancient Greece. So of all symbols that we could choose to represent money, right? Of all symbols that we can use to represent health, why land on the same symbol, right? Very, very interesting how this happens. Very interesting. So I think that, this happens, of course, to represent the most significant human unfolding on earth of all time, which is this process. We can call it whatever we want, right? Spiritual transformation or Kundalini awakening, whatever we like to think about, however we like to think about it or label it. But ultimately, you know, it rises to the top, right? It rises to the top, right? That's what it seems like, at least for me. So this helps to just normalize this process, right? Like I said, we think it's so esoteric and we're so alone and it's so unusual, but actually it's been in our face the whole time, right? So I will leave it there for some of the symbols. I'm curious if anyone else has some other symbols and representations of Kundalini awakening that they've come across on their journey. Of course, we also have KundaliniAwareness.org, which is the project that we're putting together to raise awareness about this process, to normalize it even further, to somewhat bring it into the quote unquote mainstream if we can, because so many people are going through this. So many people are going through this. They just, maybe don't know that they're going through it, or they don't know that other people are really going through it. So that's why we're trying to raise awareness. So you can visit KundaliniAwareness.org. We've got a directory of licensed mental health professionals there. We've got a collection of stories as well submitted by people like yourself that have gone through their own Kundalini awakening process. So you can submit your story. You can submit it anonymously if you like. You can add it to the library so we can raise awareness together. Some resources there, some other peer support groups. Check it out, KundaliniAwareness.org. Links are in the description, as well as the links to a bunch of other things as well. Check it all out. Thank you all for joining tonight. Let's hear from everyone. What's on your mind? Of course, we can talk about Kundalini in pop culture, Kundalini symbology, but we can take it in any direction if you like. Maybe there's something on your mind you want to share about. You want an event. Maybe you've had some insights or breakthroughs that you would like to celebrate. We're here to listen. Maybe you've got some questions for the group. I'll open the floor for others to respond as well. You can type in the chat and I'll read your messages as best as I can on the call here. We will support one another and see where this conversation goes. Let's go over here to Aaliyah. Hey, Aaliyah.
Hey, Brent. Haven't been here for a while, and lovely to see you and folks.
Likewise.
I'm really called to share something here, and it's about, I don't know what it's about, but it's definitely related to the Kundalini awakening, activation and awakening that so many are experiencing, as you mentioned. It's quite prevalent, whether people know it or not. People are certainly getting more in touch with the inner quest of who am I and what's all this about. And it's hard to say. I don't know why it's hard to say. The Kundalini is about coming together, about uniting. It's about, the masculine and the feminine, and we come together and there is no more division. We are all one. Everything is wholeness. That's why the Kundalini's she's coming up, and then she comes into awakening and ultimately enlightenment. We become light. And so in the world, in the global shift that's going on now, and some know about this, they feel it. Certainly if we have Kundalini, we feel the energetics of the shifting in our nervous system and our digestive system. And I've recently just got in touch with, astronomers. It hasn't been an interest of mine, but I'd love to hear other folks who are hearing about the upcoming global shift into the new age, let's say, the age of Aquarius that probably was planted as a seed back in the 60s and 70s, where so much good music, including the Stones, started. And it was the age of music and creation and group consciousness, and let's all love each other in peace. And it feels like we are actually coming into that age quite soon. It's happening. it's happening. And some of us are aware of that, others are not. And I'd kind of like to have a little talk around that tonight and see where people are in their awareness of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Beautiful share, Leah. Beautiful. Yeah, I feel you. I think that's what this is. I think that's what this is here. This is the dawning of this quote unquote new age. New age. Yeah. It's very interesting that we call it a new age and refer like people refer to new age ideas or new age practices. None of this is new, right?
Mm.
Right. So it's very, very interesting what we're going through here. Yeah.
Well, it is a shift into a new age, like a new age of civilization,
Yeah.
actually. It's really
Right.
huge what's coming. And if we follow that, and I've just recently started to, and it's kind of blowing me away, but at the same time, it's something I need to know. I need to
Mm.
know this. And it's just, so it's kind of also grounding. And what is my role in this awakening? Because the Kundalini doesn't activate and start moving in us um, just because. It feels like our soul, our higher intuition, we have a mission at this time, in this life, and it is to do for me, it's to support um, humanity and others in their awakening process into the new age, the new way of being, which is a higher consciousness out of the depths of division and into the way of love. And it is a new age, like you say, it's old and it's been poo-pooed and
Yeah.
crystals and all of that stuff, but it's really what's been foretold. Um, and I don't know how many years, but it's like the shift from 25,000 or 12,000 years. I mean, an unbelievable amount of years from the what's called the Kali Yuga age into this coming age. So if anyone has any information or offerings around this subject, I love to hear.
Yes. Please share if you have any thoughts. Sati Devi is asking here in the chat, is it a new age or a birthright that's been happening since the dawn of time? I enjoy both modes of thinking. Yeah, it's quite paradoxical. Maybe we're remembering our birthright, which was always there.
Mhm.
Yeah, beautiful. I've been tuning into the zeitgeist of this community. And towards the beginning of, the dawning of this community, many of us were going through significant challenges. We can call it dark night of the soul or purging or purification. And as I sort of have my finger on the pulse of, this community, I'm noting significant renewal, significant shifts towards integration. And now more people are shifting towards this question of like, what do I do now? How do I serve? So in the beginning, maybe some of the first meetings, there were many, many questions about Kundalini. At our previous meeting, nobody seemed to have any question. People are now wondering what next? What next? And I've noticed this within, of course, this community. I've noticed this also taking place within some other communities as well. I'm seeing more and more people shifting out of challenging dark nights of the soul and into this direction towards service. Like you were sharing, Aaliyah, like you're here, your mission is to support, to support. Yeah. Galen's shares here. I'm definitely feeling that. Yeah. Some others were sharing here about symbols. Red Pill Queen shares, I noticed veterinarians use the staff of Asclepius and doctors slash hospital use the caduceus. I wonder why. So I believe the caduceus was used incorrectly. Like somebody adopted it thinking they were using the rod of Asclepius, and it just kind of became the norm. I read somewhere about that. So I think that's why there's like some difference and whatnot. Ricky shares here, ambulances in the UK have the Kundalini slash snake. I've Googled it and it represents the rod of Asclepius, which promotes health and healing. Right. There it is. What better symbol to put on an ambulance that that's coming to save your life, right? Red Pill Queen says the rod is in the Bible too. Yeah, I think it was Moses whose staff turned into a snake or vice versa, something like that. So it's everywhere. Jeff shares here the children's board game, Shoots and Ladders, came to Victorian England from India as Snakes and Ladders, but the original name is Moksha Patam. Moksha is freedom from samsara, and Patam means map or picture. Amazing, amazing. So this reminds me of another one of my very early memories. We had this man, I must have been 3 or 4 years old. We had this like rug floor mat that was the Snakes and Ladders uh game. And we had this rule that in order to begin moving up the board, you had to roll a 6 on the dice first. And I remember playing against my brother, and he went all the way from 1 to 99 or 100. He beat the game before I could even roll 1 6. So I didn't even get started on the game. And I remember being young and thinking like this is like almost statistically impossible for him to beat the game, and I don't even get started. And it was something that always kind of stuck with me. And well, maybe there was something there too. The Snakes and Ladders game. Moksha Patam. Fascinating, Jeff. Thank you for sharing that one. I love that one. Very cool. Aaliyah shares here the Kundalini is a healing energy, hence the ambulance, etc. She's powerful healing force of divine light, clearing the darkness within, then within others, and eventually Mother Earth. Amazing. Yabra responds here to Aaliyah, your topic about the age, the new age, and the collective awakening that's taking place. Yabra shares some masters, including Sadhguru, say we're actually transitioning from Dvapara Yuga into Trita Yuga. So according to this interpretation, Kali Yuga is behind us in the current cycle. Yeah, so I actually heard something very similar from Emma Bragdon as well, speaking of the Dvapara Yuga. Interesting. Interesting. Quincy shares here, Rusted Roots, When I Woke, album cover. Okay, I have to look this one up. Title already is hinting at spirituality. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, that's clearly Kundalini rising. The Polish ambassador, yeah, the Polish ambassador. He had an album too, with Kundalini symbology. What was this album called? Sorry, everyone. Yeah, this is his album called Pushing Through the Pavement. Had a really cool depiction of like what I interpret to be a Kundalini awakening. The Polish ambassador. Another maybe not so obvious example of Kundalini in pop culture, but the Beatles, of course, they were exploring psychedelics, and then they began to explore teachings of the East. They got into transcendental meditation. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Also, of course, this is all Kundalini system, right? So the Beatles, right, were within that realm as well. who knows about their personal experience? Maybe they've talked about it. I don't know. I'm not much of a Beatles fan per se, but I imagine there's many artists, celebrities who have had these experiences um, that just, of course, don't publicly discuss it or disclose per se. I know some people in Hollywood that have been going through this process as well. A handful of them. Is that what fuels their rise to success and having their art shown on a global scale? Perhaps. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Sati Devi shares here that Julia Roberts with Neem Karoli Baba. Interesting. Yeah. Of course, even Steve Jobs was, I believe, a devotee of Yogananda, if or maybe not a, I don't know if devotee is the right word. I might be wrong about that, but he put autobiography of a yogi. I think that came on some of his devices or something and whatnot. He was a very spiritual guy as well, Steve Jobs. Maybe a Kundalini guy too, not sure. But then again, in my view, the whole spiritual journey is a Kundalini journey anyway. I don't think that there's any real distinction. It's just language and symbols that we use to describe it. Ah, Sati Devi, thanks for correcting me here. Yeah. So Steve Jobs gave everyone a copy of Autobiography of a Yogi to all of the people that attended his funeral. That's what happened. Yeah. I think what I got it mixed up with was that he included U2's album on all of the the iPods at one point, and I think some people weren't happy with that. Hey, Mark.
Hi, I just want to share something at work, so I might have to go promptly.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, there's been a lot of times where it felt like, the ascension was happening and then it just keeps happening and keeps happening, it keeps continuing, and I'm really embracing that process of being like, okay, so that's just going to continue. That's part of the whole thing, is just to keep going with all of it. But I felt really alienated. I actually like at my job, that seems to work. It's like maybe I have a different personality, or I just kind of separate the two, which is pretty cool. Um, but I kind of feel right now like I might kind of give up on a family member that I thought was getting better, and I don't really know if they are. And I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of just clearing things for both people is sort of how it feels sometimes, but I really just want things to be able to balance. And I have some faith in that. I'm just learning my own way of kind of separating, which I guess that's made me confused about people in general is, when am I done separating from the past, with people? Um, yeah, I'm not sure. But I would say this family relationship has kind of made me continue to meet people that would put me in similar situations. So it kind of feels like I sort of can't do anything until I just completely go alone and totally embrace that. And I'm kind of excited about that. I just didn't want to give up on a situation that was more based in the past, or I was kind of hoping that people would come in that could work with me at the same time. But, I don't know, maybe my vibration is like really intense in that situation. I'm not sure, I don't know. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there that I feel like I'm ready to, you know, I'm really embracing the inner part of my journey, and I'm learning more about, like, now I'm learning about communicating with spirit guides. And I just spoke with Archangel Gabriel last night. I said a prayer, and then I said thank you, and then I heard prego. And I was like, okay, that's not me, because I don't say prego and I don't even know what that means. But apparently it's Italian and it means you're welcome. So that was pretty cool. So stuff like that, that's making me more hopeful about the future and sharing things with people and helping others in some way. So I'm willing to bet that the more I do that, the more people will actually show up at the same time. Which sounds ironic, but something about that makes sense. So, all right, thanks.
Thank you so much, Mark. Yeah, something about that definitely makes sense. Reminds me of like these two major themes where, they're on the one hand, we stereotypically go into isolation into a cave or a monastery or the desert to do this work, right? We have to cut off our relationships, leave in a sense, go on retreat. And then I'm also reminded of Ram Dass's quote, if you think you're enlightened, go and spend a weekend with your family, right? So both of those themes are, at play there. Taking space from relationships, then moving into relationships. It's a challenging dance. Samia relates here, this spiritual path can be a lonely path at times. Yeah, truly. Eventually that loneliness can be transmuted into solitude, feel. It's a subtle inner distinction there, I think, is our relationship with being alone shifts. Circumstances don't necessarily shift, but our relationship with it shifts. Yeah. Aaliyah shares here, loneliness drops away as the devotion to the divine presence within comes in. Yeah, well said. We're never alone, really. It's an interesting experience with Archangel Gabriel speaking to you in Italian. It always raises that question, was this just a part of your mind or was there actually some presence out there communicating? Even many people who channel, they speak in a completely different accent, different vocabulary, their sense of humor changes drastically. Really interesting stuff. That seems to suggest that it's not just something going on in your mind, it's some connection you're making with something beyond the mind. Samia says here, anyone have suggestions for reoccurring thoughts, negative thoughts? I meditate, do affirmations to fight, especially when I wake up. Some cognitive behavioral therapy techniques may be helpful at this point. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, refers to some of these as NATs, negative automatic thoughts. Of course, working with a therapist is ideal if you'd like to explore that in more detail, but I'm sure you can find some material online to help you with managing these thoughts from the CBT perspective. CBT is very effective. It's shown to be, really powerful. But some of the criticisms of CBT is that it doesn't address the underlying root of what these reoccurring negative thoughts may be. So CBT generally doesn't really go into the past and the trauma and things like that. So you can combine all of these approaches. So at times, if some CBT techniques such as thought stopping or reframing, these can be helpful. And then when you feel safe enough and you're ready, then you can maybe explore some deeper modalities to go a little deeper and look at, what is the underlying roots behind these thoughts. So some ideas. Let's hear from Samia.
Good evening, all. I hope everybody's well. Hope everybody's well. Um, just to piggyback on the question, because I do a lot of meditation and movement, and I just got my Reiki too, so I do the self practice of Reiki. But I think the battling of the thoughts in the head and like overthinking and overanalyzing and waiting for the other shoe to drop, because I guess we kind of go through this path and things come up that we're just not used to, and then we come to acceptance. I get that, but it's been going on 18 months, maybe 2 years now. So I'm seeing the light, but I think I've gone through so much and I have released so much. And I believe in different types of modalities of healing too, that I'm still have this underlying waiting for the shoe, the other drop fear that I bring to my meditations and movement and write. And I just want to break free of it. And I think I maybe just going to take time. I really work diligently about it. I, started 2 new jobs, in another state. So all that's, I'm sure, taking play because, from the after effects of this awakening and moving a couple times, it's just the unknown and trusting and walking in faith and trust, which this journey will definitely connect you more to your source and yourself and trusting your intuition and trusting Shakti and trusting the source. I mean, it really does. It that has me. But I still fighting through this underlying fear of like, what if the shoe drops? What if this happens again and I can't pick my life up again? So that's the battle I'm going through. I know I'll get to the other side, but I just would love any suggestions because I do work hard at it, but sometimes I think I over process it and I forget to have fun and live life because it's not just all about this awakening. My life is not all about that. It's about other stuff, and I want to help and I want to serve, and and I work in the school system now, so I feel good about that. But I just want to get over this last bit of hump so I can just feel safe and not just have these thoughts. Yeah. So anyway, I'm open to anybody's suggestions. Thanks.
Well, thanks so much for sharing in your vulnerability, Samia. I, I guess what's coming to me is, this idea of the other shoe dropping and things falling apart again. It's completely valid, especially if you've gone through something challenging in the past. If things were to fall apart, you are different, right? You have more insight, wisdom, resources, experiences. So it's not going to be a Groundhog Day experience per se. You'll be able to handle it differently than before, right? Yeah. Let's hear from Mark.
Thanks. So this process, gosh, like I became so aware of like when I did this, then this happens, and there's this balance and like karma and like people in my soul group, and I'm doing it just made me like so aware of all these different things. And it made me feel like this sense of control, which was definitely not healthy for me. And the most recently, when there have been things that definitely feel like me and there is some kind of struggle, I surrender to it and I say, you know, okay, like that's okay. Like, all right, yeah, just basically the idea of allowing and surrender. And I see where that takes me because often it allows something to open up. Like it's like there was something in my body that needs to be released. So it's coming to the surface, it's coming to my mind. And that's why I'm thinking about it so much, is because it's already at the mind. It was probably at the root before, and now it's lifted up. Um, and now I'm ready to mentally let it go. So yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. It's a very empowering perspective, Mark. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, sometimes things come up to be released, and their arising isn't a problem, it's the solution. It's being released, being exhausted. EE has shared earlier in the chat I saw a baby snake yesterday for maybe the first time in a decade. Super cool. When the snakes show up in nature, it's very powerful. Cat shares here, observe, allow, surrender has been a go-to mantra for me lately. Observe, allow, surrender. Perfect. Sati Devi shares here, we're working with recurring thoughts and negative thoughts. Mantra or japa recitation helps break the cycle of negative thoughts. Galen shares here, remember that thoughts are energy and Kundalini purges energy. The more I surrender to it and let it happen, the more my mind is naturally quieting as it releases energy through the thoughts. Brilliant. Tracy's got a question here for the group. I'm curious to know how everyone here receives guidance or messages from spirit that helps them to know the right thing for them to do when they feel lost or confused. Does anyone have some thoughts? Anything to share about how they receive guidance? I pay attention to themes rather than just one specific sign or insight or message or whatever. I just kind of notice trends and themes. So for example, if I'm meant to begin a new business, for example, like many different pieces will begin to reveal themselves to me in different ways. Other things that I'm involved in may begin to wind down to create space. So I notice a theme of space opening up. I'm being called in a particular direction. So then the decisions are very easy for what I need to do. And that's for bigger stuff. For smaller stuff, I have a more of an intuitive sense of feeling. Now and then I will receive very clear direction from some inner voice or presence, but not on a regular basis, not for me. Olga shares here, in my case, it comes as coincidences. Yeah. Synchronicity, coincidence. This can be part of the themes that I was mentioning as well. Aliyah shares here, for me, I drop into my heart and be with thoughts, feelings, etc. With the power of the infinite God I am presence, I drop my mind into my heart and be with love. Beautiful. Cat shares here, full body chills, earrings, synchronicities, dreams. It varies a lot. Leah adds on here, for guidance, I pray, oh Divine Mother, please show me my guide. Guide me. She always comes through. Yes, this is also something that I engage in as well, just prayer. Show me. And I also sometimes will tell the Divine Mother, this is what I intend to do until I receive more information. I intend to stay put. Letting you know, this is what I'm going to do. So don't say I didn't warn you. So this is kind of the relation I have. It feels authentic. Right? It feels real. She's never reprimanded me for such an attitude. I think it's fair and reasonable to say, hey, look, sounds like you want me to do something, but it doesn't feel clear to me and I'm unsure. So make it clear. Samia shares here, particularly songs, colors, sounds, and an angelic feeling at times. Audrey shares on YouTube here, numbers, birds, things people say. Interesting. So there's so many different ways to receive guidance. Jeff adds here, another perspective on the yugas is that they are all present here and now, representative of our own consciousness at a given time. So they are here, but how are we in equilibrium with them personally. It's a good perspective as well. It's like states of consciousness, frequency, vibration, this sort of thing, maybe. Interesting. If you've got some topics to recommend for Kundalini After Dark sessions, you can send me an email, info@brentspirit.com. We'll take your suggestions into consideration. I'll be honest, I feel like I'm running out of topics. I feel like I've said most of everything, but who knows? I don't want to have a scarcity mindset about it. But I don't know what else to share sometimes. That's why I invite you all to share too. Less work for me. Cat shares, the Grateful Dead tee I'm wearing has a snake on it. Unplanned, but on brand for this topic. Yeah. The Grateful Dead. Definitely within that realm too. Olga shares here, I wonder if there's a guide to the Kriyas and what they help us with. This is an interesting question. So in my view, Kriyas being the spontaneous movements that arise throughout this process, they can happen inwardly as well, just energy moving. Kriya is a very broad term. But specifically the movements, the body postures, the mudras with the hands. My view is that the common asanas for yoga that we see, the common postures that we see were actually originally something that occurred spontaneously to people going through Kundalini awakening process. So certain asanas, certain postures do have some physical benefits, some energetic benefits as well that you can look up. So they may be documented there. So some twists, for example, are kind of like they massage the organs. This is what they say about twists. Perhaps that's some clearing going on in the organs. I don't know. Certain postures calm us down. Certain postures activate us energetically more. So maybe there isn't a specific guide to what Kundalini Kriyas do, but there may be some guides out there for what are the benefits of particular asanas. There are certainly guides for what are the benefits of particular mudras, gestures with the fingers and the hands. Those are out there. So you can find some information about that. But also keep in mind here that some of the stuff that people experience within Kundalini process is not properly documented. For example, a member of our community, I was in touch with him, Dr. Sriram, he shared a couple of weeks ago about his experiences. He was sharing about some mudras that were happening to him, and he couldn't find them documented anywhere. And so he was in touch with some very, very experienced, wise people in India. And they said, these mudras, we haven't heard about these mudras before. And being so astute and skilled, they were able to engage in the mudras that he described. And they said, this is what it's activating in me. This is what its purpose is. So they were able to tell him, this is what it's doing. So I think there's stuff here that's kind of not even been properly documented. Some of it's new, fresh, novel. Some of it may happen so fast that, like shifting between certain kriyas, one to the other, that, you can't even keep track of it. So while it helps to understand what some of these things are doing, it's very helpful, it's very interesting, it's fascinating, it helps us to converse about it, to support one another. I also think that on some level, we have to just say, my body's doing what it's doing. I don't need to know. Just let it do what it does. Yeah. So fascinating stuff. Yeah. Sati Devi shares here that in Kundalini Yoga, they explain what Kriyas help with. Yeah. Mark B shares here, I pay attention to which side of the body it is. If it fits the left side, like left hand, it's related to the right brain, or for myself, that's my divine feminine, and vice versa. Right side gives me information related to the left brain's response. to what is going on. Yeah, very interesting. Makes sense. Olga shares here, I get rhythmic movements in my wrists among many other movements. No clue what they do though. Yeah. I haven't got a clue either. I've had various things like that as well, shaking, vibrating, kind of just convulsing erratically and whatnot. I take it as just some energetic clearing, some stress being shaken off, some energetic movement through the system, whatever it may be. Yabra shares here on YouTube. For me, the content of these chats isn't even so important as being here live, as connecting energetically to everybody. It feels like a miniature version of that 2026 upcoming communal meditation. Great. Thank you for bringing up the 2026 communal meditation. So with KundaliniAwareness.org, along with When Lightning Strikes, Kundalini Collective, we are hosting a live global Kundalini meditation. Our aim is to have it be the largest global Kundalini meditation the world has ever seen. So this will take place on Saturday, March 28th, 2026, 2 p.m. Eastern. Mark your calendars. We've got some time, though, of course. This is the date that I was given. I was told to host this meditation. I was told this date. We'll see what happens. So if you'd like to join, you can register at kundaliniawareness.org/global. It's completely free. We'll do a live stream on YouTube or Zoom or something like that. We'll meditate together, and you can be a part of the largest Kundalini meditation ever. So we're hosting, of course, with When Lightning Strikes, with Kundalini Collective, both peer support groups, there to support you with Kundalini, there to also, like what we're doing here, raise awareness about this process. And over time, I'm going to try and get some more organizations involved to host the meditation, right? So we can bring all the communities together with this one global meditation. So thanks for bringing that up, Yabra. I appreciate it. Yabra shares here, I really enjoyed Aaliyah's share today. Thank you, Aaliyah. Hey, Brent, why don't you do a whole After Dark with the Ascension as the main topic? It's a great topic. I'll take note of that and then see what comes up. Samia shares here, I learned to dance and move with the energy now. Amazing. I'm speaking about meditation, saying this is going to be so powerful. Aaliyah shares, the world would likely benefit from us doing one next year. Yeah, maybe we can do like a preliminary ones or something. I don't know what the word is, but like do some ones leading up to it. Yeah. So we'll have to start raising some more awareness about the meditation. We'll see what happens. So we'll see if anything else is coming up. Oh, okay, I see you, Aaliyah. Okay, let's hear from Aaliyah.
I love being seen. Thank you, Ren.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Oh, now I'm all overcome. Now I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh my goodness. Oh, I do want to share something that I've started in my little community where I live is the gathering. This is just a huge call from spirit to gather the light workers. And many of whom are hiding in closets or afraid to come out, and like who wants to talk about the stuff that's happening to us in our awakening. But there's just a huge pull to gather folks together in community, and so just once a week we gather in a lovely little yurt, and 8 or 10 of us so far, and share just what's going on for us. And it's a really supportive way of talking about things we can't generally talk about with others and most people. And we can actually share some of the healing gifts that have come through. Some people have light language, some people have creative artwork, some people have channeling is happening for them, because the psychic gifts are coming as we increasingly awaken in our journey. And that's really lovely. And also, what we do is we send love and healing light to people and places in the world that need it. And it is incredibly powerful when folks who are somewhat aware and awake and in the light, we gather and get on the magic carpet, we call it, and we just call in the light, and we hold hands, and we leave the yurt, and we just get on the ride, and we go and we call in where to go, maybe grandma in Ontario, or it may be the floods in North Carolina, or it may be an earthquake in India. Like, we can fly everywhere on this energy in group, and the more people that gather in this light of love, it really is effective. It's certainly a great high anyway. quite quite giddy when I get off the carpet. Anyway, I just wanted to say that's a little thing
Yeah.
I'm doing in my little community here. And so exponentially, we could do it online. It works. I mean, we could start one here, but you've got enough on your plate, I know. But just to say, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very inspiring. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very inspiring. Aaliyah, have you seen the video called A Gathering of the Tribe? It's an
Mm.
animation depicting what you just shared, really. So I'm gonna link it here, and if you're listening in the archive or anything, there's a video on YouTube. It's called A Gathering of the Tribe. Um, Let me
Is
see
that Charles
who's.
Eisenstein?
I believe so. Yes.
And it's a very short one, and all the light
Yeah.
workers come and dive in.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
I have.
Uh,
Very
okay.
powerful.
Great.
Put
Yeah.
it in because everyone should see it.
Yeah. It's everyone really should see it. It's
Yes, because that's what
incredibly
we're doing. Hmm.
empowering and validating. And what they describe in this video is what you shared. They say first we will begin gathering in small groups, and it's true. It's true. That's what's happening. It's really powerful video. I mean, I've shared it with people, and they're moved to tears because they feel like their entire life is summed up in this 8-minute video. It's by Aubrey Marcus. It's the story is by Charles Eisenstein, I believe. You can find it on Aubrey Marcus's YouTube channel, A Gathering of the Tribe, with John Hopkins and Aubrey Marcus. So check that out if you haven't already. Really, really moving, very moving. Thank you all so much for joining and sharing, supporting one another tonight. If you feel moved to offer a donation, I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Tomorrow, I'll be hosting a Kundalini Q&A meeting, 2 p.m. Eastern. You can join us. We do that most Mondays. If you'd like to meet with me one-on-one, you can visit brentspirit.com. All the links are in the description. Thank you all so much. This was a fun time. Lots of great energy tonight.